My name's Alex, and if there's one thing I've learned the hard way, it's that being the responsible one in a family doesn't guarantee love, respect, or even fairness. From the outside looking in, my family might have seemed like your typical suburban household. 2 kids, 2 parents, and all the traditional holiday photos framed neatly on the wall. But step inside and you'd quickly see the imbalance. There was a favorite child and it wasn't me. My younger sister Emily, 3 years my junior, has always been treated like a princess. If she wanted something, she got it. No questions asked. I remember being 17 and working part-time to help pay for my used car, proud of my independence. A year later, Emily turned 16, threw a tantrum when she realized she was expected to share that same car. And just like that, she got a brand new one. No effort, no gratitude, just entitlement handed to her on a silver platter. Meanwhile, I was constantly held to impossibly high standards. If I brought home a B+, I was scolded for slacking. If Emily scraped by with a C-, it was met with celebration and cake. The message was loud and clear. I was expected to be perfect so she could be pampered. Still, I never complained. I figured maybe that's just how things are in some families. I played my part, worked hard, stayed out of trouble, and silently accepted that my achievements would always be overshadowed by Emily's whims. It wasn't just the material things, it was the emotional energy too. My mom would drop everything to tend to Emily's emotional crises, no matter how trivial. I, on the other hand, learned to solve my own problems. I became self-reliant, yes, but at the cost of feeling invisible. What's worse is that my dad, though a kind man, never intervened. He played the role of the peacemaker, always avoiding confrontation, never acknowledging the favoritism even when it was glaringly obvious. This family dynamic shaped me. It made me resilient, yes, but also cautious. I learned not to expect much from people, especially those who were supposed to care. It taught me that fairness isn't guaranteed, even from those who love you. And worst of all, it planted a quiet sadness in my heart, a longing to be seen, not just for what I could do, but for who I was. Looking back now at 28, I see how deep the favoritism ran. I wasn't just the other child. I was the backdrop to someone else's spotlight. And while I've built a life of my own, that wound, that feeling of being second place in your own family, still lingers. Weddings are supposed to be about love, unity, and celebration, but sometimes they become the clearest reflection of a family's true priorities. That's exactly what happened to me, Alex, at my younger sister Emily's wedding. What should have been a joyful, if emotionally complicated day, quickly turned into one of the most humiliating moments of my life. Not because of something I did, but because of where I was told to sit. As the older sibling, I had expected to take a back seat that day. It was Emily's time to shine, and I was prepared to play the supportive brother. I wasn't part of the wedding party. That was fine. Not everyone includes their siblings in those roles. But what I didn't expect was to be seated outside the reception hall at a lone table near the coat rack. No family, no friends, just me, the faint smell of mothballs, and a brutal reminder that I didn't really belong. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe the seating chart got mixed up, maybe there weren't enough chairs. But the wedding planner confirmed it. That's your assigned seat. No apologies, no offer to fix it. It became clear this wasn't an oversight, it was intentional. I found Emily in the bridal suite, surrounded by laughter and adoration, and asked her directly. She shrugged it off with a giggle, saying they had to prioritize immediate family. I stood there stunned. I was immediate family, but apparently, moving out, being single, and living my own life had somehow stripped me of that title. Even worse, my mother chimed in, telling me not to make a scene, because it was Emily's special day. No one seemed to care that I had been literally placed outside the celebration. It wasn't about logistics. It was a message. You're not part of us anymore. The pain of that moment went far beyond table placement. It said everything I needed to know about where I stood in their eyes. They didn't just forget me, they excluded me, with purpose, with intent. And the worst part? They didn't even feel bad about it. That seat near the coats wasn't just uncomfortable, it was symbolic. It represented years of being pushed to the side, of my achievements being overlooked, of my existence being tolerated rather than celebrated. It was a turning point. That day I realized I wasn't just an afterthought. I was no longer even considered family. And once you see your place that clearly, you can't unsee it. There's a limit to how much quiet tolerance one person can carry, and at my sister Emily's wedding, I hit mine. For years, I'd been the older sibling expected to stay polite, stay silent, and always be the bigger person. But as I stood in the hallway of the wedding venue, my designated seat far from the celebration, tucked next to the coat rack, I realized something. They didn't care. Not about me. Not about fairness. Not about basic respect. So I stopped caring too. That's when I decided to speak up. I hadn't planned to make a scene, but seeing Emily glow in her bridal suite, surrounded by admiration and adoration while I was literally pushed to the margins, made something inside me snap. I wasn't going to let them pretend I didn't exist anymore, and I knew exactly where to start. Emily's brand new mother-in-law. Emily had always hated her fiancé's mom. Behind closed doors, she mocked her dress sense, rolled her eyes at her speeches, and complained about her involvement in the wedding. But in public, she played the sweet, dutiful daughter-in-law. So when her mother-in-law approached me that day with a smug smile, clearly aware of where I'd been seated, I didn't hesitate. I leaned in with a smirk. "Funny," I said. "Emily was just saying how stressed she was about the seating chart. Something about not wanting certain people too close to the head table. Worried about the wedding photos, I think." The smile on her mother-in-law's face vanished. Then I added, "And she was nervous about the speeches too. Said she was dreading what you might say. Something about making it all about yourself." You could have heard a pin drop. Emily turned white. My mother stood frozen nearby, horrified. And the mother-in-law? She was livid. That was the spark that lit the flame. In seconds, the mother-in-law turned on Emily, demanding the truth. Emily panicked, trying to deny everything, but it was too late. Everyone could see through her act. The bridesmaids started whispering. Guests stared. My dad looked like he wanted to disappear. The groom? He finally showed up, stunned and speechless. And I just stood there, sipping champagne like it was opening night at a Broadway show. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about finally being heard, finally holding a mirror up to the people who had dismissed and diminished me for so long. For once, Emily couldn't spin the narrative. Her fake smile couldn't save her. The truth came out, and it hit like a wrecking ball. By the time I left, the reception was in shambles. Emily was red-faced and screaming. Her in-laws were furious. My parents looked completely broken. And me? I walked out feeling lighter than I had in years. Sometimes silence isn't golden, it's just ignored. And sometimes speaking the truth, even when it's messy, is the most powerful gift you can give yourself. The moment I stepped out of that wedding, gift in hand and dignity intact, I knew it wasn't over. A storm like that doesn't just blow through and leave everything untouched. No, it lingers. It burns bridges. And by the time I got home, I could already feel the smoke rising behind me. The next morning, I woke to a flood of missed calls and angry text messages. My mother had gone full theater mode, voice messages swinging wildly between desperation and fury. "Alex, what were you thinking? You ruined your sister's wedding," was immediately followed by, "Please come over so we can talk this out, honey." She was trying everything. Guilt, love, threats, all of it. Then there was Emily. Her texts were a roller coaster of rage. "You're dead to me. I can't even look at my wedding photos because of you. You took back the gift? Who does that?" The drama in her words made me laugh as I sipped my morning coffee. She was furious because, for once, she wasn't in control of the narrative. And worse, people had seen her true colors. But what caught me off guard wasn't my mother's hysteria or my sister's tantrums. It was a simple message from my dad. "Call me when you have a minute." My dad had always been the quiet one, the observer. He rarely stepped into the emotional battlefield my mom and sister loved to wage. So when I called him back, I wasn't sure what to expect. "Why would you do this?" he asked, his voice tired but not angry. I leaned back. "Because someone had to. Did you see how they treated me? Did you see where they put me?" He was silent for a moment. Then, finally, a sigh. A slow, thoughtful, almost guilty sigh. "I saw what happened," he admitted. "And it wasn't right." For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. This man, who had spent years watching from the sidelines, was finally acknowledging it. The favoritism, the exclusion, the hurt. I'm not saying you handled it perfectly, he added, but I understand why you snapped. Those words meant more than any apology from my mom or sister ever could. For the first time, someone in that family had seen me. Not the troublemaker, not the outsider, but the person who had been pushed too far. Dad told me the wedding had fallen apart after I left. Emily's mother-in-law was furious. The groom was questioning everything, and the tension in the family had exploded. Emily, as expected, blamed me for everything, but Dad didn't. Not fully. She wants you to apologize, he said. I laughed out loud. Of course she does. And you? I think maybe it's time Emily learned that actions have consequences. For the first time in years, I felt a strange sense of peace. Maybe the family wouldn't magically heal. Maybe they'd still talk behind my back. But I wasn't alone anymore. And I wasn't wrong. Sometimes the real fallout isn't the shouting match or the ruined party. It's what happens when the truth finally has nowhere to hide. In the weeks following the wedding, the drama didn't just die down. It evolved. The truth I dropped like a grenade into the middle of my sister's big day had left cracks in the foundation of our family, and no one knew how to patch them. The morning after the chaos, my dad gave me a call, something rare in itself. His voice wasn't angry though. It was quiet, tired, and surprisingly honest. Your mother's been trying to fix things with Emily, he said, but nothing's working. Emily's a wreck. The groom, well, he's not even talking to her right now. I sat in silence, letting the weight of that hit me. The wedding that was supposed to mark a new beginning for Emily had become the starting point of something else entirely, something unraveling. She's blaming you, my dad continued. She thinks if you just apologize, maybe her mother-in-law will forgive her. Maybe her husband will forget what he heard. I couldn't help but laugh. Of course she wants me to apologize, because taking responsibility for her own behavior has never been her thing. She's still your sister, Alex, he said, though even he didn't sound convinced. Yeah, and for years I've played along. I've stayed quiet while she lied, manipulated, and steamrolled over everyone because no one wanted to upset her. And look where that's gotten us. There was a long pause. Then he said something I never thought I'd hear from him. You're right. That stopped me cold. You're right, he repeated. We let it happen. Your mother and I, we enabled her. We didn't want to rock the boat, so we let her act however she wanted. But you, what you did, you told the truth. Maybe not in the most subtle way, but it needed to be said. It was strange. I didn't feel vindicated or triumphant. I felt sad. Sad that it took a public explosion for someone in my family to finally see me, to finally admit that I wasn't crazy for feeling pushed aside for years. Emily's marriage might not survive this, Dad said quietly, and your mother's desperate to pretend none of it happened. And you? I asked. What do you want? I want peace, but not at the expense of pretending everything's fine. I'm tired of that. Those words were heavier than any apology. They meant he was tired of the roles we had all been assigned. Me as the scapegoat, Emily as the golden child, Mom as the orchestrator of the perfect image. She still expects you to fix it, he added. I'm not going to, I said firmly. If she wants to fix her marriage, she needs to start by fixing herself. I figured you'd say that, he replied, and for once, he didn't try to argue. As I hung up the phone, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Free from the burden of being the one who always had to absorb the blame, the one who was expected to stay silent just to keep the family from falling apart. They wanted me to be the one to glue the pieces back together, but maybe the truth is, it's not my job to fix what I didn't break. It's been weeks since the wedding, and I haven't spoken to my sister once. Not for lack of effort on her part. Emily has sent more messages than I can count. Long, dramatic ones filled with blame, demands, and the occasional half-hearted plea. But I've ignored them all, because here's the truth. I don't regret what I did. Not for a second. For the first time in my life, I stood up and told the truth, not just about Emily, but about the role I've been forced to play in this family for years. The quiet one, the responsible one, the one who swallows their feelings so everyone else can keep pretending everything's perfect. That version of me, he's gone, and I don't miss him. Emily, of course, still thinks I'm the problem. According to my dad, she believes that if I had just kept my mouth shut, everything would have been fine. Her marriage wouldn't be on the rocks, her mother-in-law wouldn't be furious, and the wedding photos wouldn't be tainted by what she calls my scene. But here's what Emily refuses to understand. I didn't cause this. I revealed it. And there's a big difference. She's still waiting for me to fix it. Waiting for me to apologize, take the blame, and make nice so she can sweep everything under the rug and move on like nothing ever happened. But I'm not stepping back into that role. Not anymore. Because what I've learned, what I wish I'd learned years ago, is that you can't keep setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. You can't keep sacrificing your own peace just to make sure everyone else is comfortable. Eventually, something inside you breaks. Or, in my case, something finally snaps and says, no more. Since the wedding, my life has been peaceful. Really peaceful. No passive-aggressive texts, no guilt trips, no pretending I'm okay while I'm being shoved aside. Just me, living on my own terms, doing things that make me happy. And I've realized something else too. You don't owe people access to your life just because you share DNA. Family should mean support, respect, and honesty, not obligation, silence, and sacrifice. For too long, I believed that love meant keeping the peace at any cost. But love without respect is just control, and I'm done being controlled. I don't know if Emily's marriage will survive. I don't know if my mom will ever admit she was wrong, or if my dad will keep quietly supporting me from the sidelines. But I do know this. I finally reclaimed my voice. And that voice matters. So no, I'm not going to apologize. I'm not going to play the villain in a story I didn't write. I'm going to keep moving forward, surrounded by people who actually see me, who value me, not just for what I can do for them, but for who I am. And if that means leaving behind a sister who never really saw me as more than a side character in her perfect little narrative, then so be it. Because for the first time in a long time, I'm not angry. I'm not sad. I'm free. In life, especially as we grow older, we're taught that keeping peace within the family is a virtue. We learn to bite our tongue, avoid conflict, and let things go for the sake of harmony. But sometimes, silence becomes a burden too heavy to bear, especially when it allows others to repeatedly disregard or hurt us. That's the lesson Alex, the narrator in this story, painfully learned, and one that many older adults may find familiar. For years, Alex lived in the shadow of his younger sister, constantly expected to do the right thing, to be the quiet one, the responsible one. His family praised Emily, the golden child, while overlooking or dismissing Alex's contributions. And like many of us who've been raised with the values of humility and restraint, Alex accepted this imbalance until it became too much. What happened at Emily's wedding wasn't just about being seated at the wrong table. It wasn't about party politics or family drama. It was about respect, about being seen, about drawing a line when enough is enough. And that's a powerful reminder for us all. No matter our age, it's never too late to stand up for ourselves. As older adults, many of us have faced moments in our lives where we were overlooked by family, by society, even by those we've supported the most. We've given our time, our wisdom, and often our resources to our children, grandchildren, or siblings. And while we don't give expecting something in return, it still stings to feel unappreciated or excluded. Alex's story reminds us that speaking up doesn't mean being cruel. It means honoring our own value. It means setting boundaries where none existed before. It means refusing to play a role that causes silent suffering just to keep others comfortable. There's also a lesson here about the dangers of favoritism. Many parents, even unintentionally, create deep emotional wounds when they place one child above the others. For those in their golden years, this is an opportunity to reflect. Have I made each of my loved ones feel equally seen and valued? And if not, what can I do today to start healing that divide? Most importantly, this story teaches that peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of fairness. And fairness starts when we stop pretending and start telling the truth, even if it's hard. So whether you're 68 or 88, remember, your voice matters. Your story matters. And you deserve to be respected, not just as a parent or grandparent, but as a person. Because true family isn't just about blood. It's about mutual care, honesty, and the willingness to treat one another with dignity. And it's never too late to choose yourself.